Welcome! It's a great day to be a miner, and before you is the Mars Lander V2, and it's got some issues. We're going to do some maintenance. We're going to see if we can troubleshoot and get this thing going the way it's supposed to be running. But first, let's spin that intro. Welcome, and here we are again. This is the Mars Lander V2. In the past, about a year ago, we got this thing set up in mining. We did a full setup video. Check that out up above. But recently, we've had a couple issues going on. One, this thing has a grossly loud fan on it. Let me see if you can hear it. You see how it just constantly comes up, and then it comes back down, and then goes back up. So the fan on this USB stick underneath this case is going bad. That's our first issue. That's been an issue for a while, but we're finally going to address it because it's getting kind of annoying. And the second issue is the hash rate has dropped quite a bit on this thing. This thing was always setting at a hash rate of about 1 terahash to maybe even clear up to 1300 gigahash, but lately it's sitting down around 800 gigahash. It's currently at 776 gigahash. So one of these sticks is not functioning as it is supposed to, and possibly two. So there's still heat pushing out. You can touch these and you can feel how hot the heat sinks are. So we know that these are working. So we're going to troubleshoot this thing and see if we can get this all the way back up and online. So the first thing we need to do, we're going to blow the dust out of these things. Before we do that, we're going to shut it off and we're going to hold the fan still. And that's recommended for any kind of fans, computer fans. If you're cleaning a GPU, hold those fans still before you hit them with that hard dust of air, because you will inherently mess them up if not. So first and foremost, this is the Mars Lander. Each one of these are Compact F USB drives. If you buy just the Mars Lander unit, this is what you get right here. And then I bought the additional hub, the upgraded power supply, and then the 4 additional sticks. Each stick, I believe, is advertised to 250 plus gigahash. They usually can run around 300 gigahash without even cranking them up or overclocking them, just with the default settings. These had the beautiful RGB fans, because we all know that RGB adds hash rate, right? So without further ado, we're going to power this thing down, and then we're going to clean it out. We're going to dust it out, and then we're going to go from there on our troubleshooting. So let's get our handy dandy duster out and go with it. This would be the X-Power A2, and this is one of the most useful pieces of equipment that I've come across since I've started in the tech industry and since I've started mining. This thing is amazing. If you need one of these, check out the links down in the description. Picked this up on Amazon many years ago, and it has been amazing. So don't use the air in the can. This thing has 10 times the power, reusable, and it will actually pay for itself over time versus those ridiculous air in the cans. So let's plug this thing in, and then we're going to dust these out and see how much dust blows out of this guy. All right, here we go. Let's see how much dust goes flying out of this thing. Let's put it on low. A little bit of dust, a little bit of dust. Let's open this guy up and dust it out as well. So once you have it all unhooked, again, the unit just comes like this with the case on top, but these are the additional powered up USB sticks in a hub to add that extra horsepower to bring that gigahash up to something usable. So yeah, there's a lot of dust on this board here. Okay, fun fact, that X-Power A2, it uses 550 watts on high and 350 on low. I just happen to have it plugged into the watt meter that I'm running this off of for testing. So first and foremost, we know that this guy has a fan issue. So let's start by replacing the fan on this, and then we'll move to the rest of the troubleshooting. Okay, so there it is, kind of up close. This is the USB. It's just got a main compact F USB stick. They have the fan right on top, and it looks like this fan is just held on with 2 screws in the corner, and then it routes the 2 wires. It's not a PWM, it's just a always on fan, and it runs down, and it's under the board here, which looks like it's housed all in plastic. So we're probably gonna have to open this up. We do already have a replacement fan that is basically the identical fan. It came with our Raspberry Pi ice tower that we put on one of our Bitaxes. If you wanna see that video, check that out. But we put an ice tower cooler onto one of our Bitaxes to super cool it so we could overclock it way up. But yeah, this is the extra fan. It came with an RGB fan and this fan, and we didn't use either. We used the stock Bitaxe fan. So yeah, we got a couple extra. We have the RGB one as well, but we're gonna keep this one black because of the RGB LEDs that are on this board. Each one of these is an LED. And of course, the Mars lander comes with the little remote so you can switch the colors. When you first turn it on, it's an annoying blinking color that cycles through. So I always set it to one of the colors or off because the RGB is kind of blinding when it's flashing back and forth. So first and foremost, I guess we need to, because we can unhook it from here, but then it's just gonna be dangling. Is this just a clip? So this is just a clip to hold on the fan wire. So we could unhook the fan at the top, but we need to unhook where it plugs in. Hopefully it just has the 2 little plugs and it's not actually soldered in. That will make it a lot easier. So we're gonna open this up here. I'm just gonna take out these 2 screws. I assume that's all that's holding it. I have my magnetic mat. I moved it, so we're just gonna have to not lose that. Take out our second screw, and this back plastic should pop right off. Maybe it'll pop back off. So, how does this pop off of here? It doesn't pop off of there. The stand that holds the USB itself is now free. So we still have to get under the board to get to that guy. So those screws hold the board on here. Now that'll slide off, but how do we get under? Maybe the board will lift up, no. So let's pop this guy off. That just slides off. And there's what our stick looks like without the fan on there. And there's the fan hanging down. So we can take our fan off, but it's still going to be connected underneath of that board. Just 2 screws in the corner. A little bit of dust under there, but there is our housing. Then we want to put it the same way that it was, with the wires in the same place. Let's just go ahead and put the screws in so we don't forget which way that goes. These wires look shorter. I bet I'm gonna have to change the wire length, of course, because that would be way too easy. I may have to solder it in anyway. Let's find the best spot for this. If I want the wires as long as possible, probably gonna want it to come out the back like that. And oh, look, the fan even says Bitcoin merch on the back. They're all about that branding. So, a replacement fan is on here. Those wires are way shorter. Those wires are not going to run underneath of there, so we're going to end up having to cut those anyway. So now let's see how we can get under this board. Oh, look at that. The board lifts off, the bottom plastic does not. Oh yeah, that's a long wire, long wire. Okay. Underneath the board, there is a 2-wire. So this might be an easier connection than I thought. So honestly, we could leave that sucker plugged in. We could cut this wire and splice these in and go about our day. That's probably what we're gonna do. Let's leave about the same amount of tail. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna just cut this right here, and then we're going to splice the black to the black, the red to the red, and then we're going to mount it right back up on, and then that'll be it. So that should be easy peasy. So let's do some time warping. Ready, go. All right, so we made it back. What did we do? So we've got this thing all hooked on here, this fan. We just mounted it onto the bracket with the 2 screws. We cut the wires. We left the existing wire, long wire that was underneath that runs to a little plug that's plugged underneath of this board. We then used our handy dandy wire strippers. These things are amazing, by the way. These have been one of my favorite tools since I got them a few years ago. I use this a lot. This is a one-handed wire stripper. You put it in there, and these are 20 gauge wires, which is the smallest this will go. You put it in there, you get it nice and lined up, and you just squeeze, and then it pulls the casing off and does a really clean wire strip. So we stripped the wires, then we twisted them together really nicely. We dipped them in some flux, and then we tinned them both. And then, well, first we tinned them both. Actually, we dipped them in flux, then we were twisting them together, and then we tinned them real good together. And then we already had some clear shrink tubing that we slid up here, and then we slid it back up over top of the connections. We used our little mini pin torch, heated those things up, and now it has a really nice solid connection that is actually enclosed. So not super professional, but still pretty solid. Like, that is pretty good solder job with pretty good shrink tube around it for protection. So now the next thing we have to do is just before we actually put it back on, let's plug it in and make sure this fan's even gonna work. I didn't even compare, but I'm pretty sure it's the exact same fan. So let's just plug it in just to see what that fan does. Spooled right up, blowing nice cool air, can't even hear it. So we're gonna unplug it rather than let this thing get all heated up. All right, so yeah, it looks like a success for the fan replace. Let's put it back into place, and then we'll fire it back up. Let's go. Bam, just like that, all back together. So the hardest part was trying to get this nice and lined up here, but it actually came out really well with the wires. I ran it kind of down, and then I just used that existing clip that comes with it, clipped that wire back on there, and now it's all solidly back together. These 2 little screws that hold the feet, that hold the fan bracket, actually kind of mount the board and everything all into one unit as a nice solid piece. So yeah, there is our fan replacement. Let's fire it back up, make sure the fan is nice and quiet and is working the way it's supposed to, and then we'll start trying to troubleshoot the hash rate issue to see if we can figure out what's going on with the hash rate. So let's plug that in and let it spool back up. We're gonna plug in, you know what, let's just use the main unit only. We're only gonna fire up this unit. We're gonna leave these offline first and see how this spools up. First and foremost, let's turn those lights off. That'll make it so you guys can't see anything. So the real remote has a bunch of different colors and functions, and you can just hit the off button and shut those things off. So there it is. There's our Bitcoin merch logo on our screen. And then we're just gonna time warp. We're gonna let this thing fire up because it does take a little while. It's gonna pull in the IP and all that fun stuff, and then it'll pull in the CG miner software, and then it'll start trying to mine. So let's time warp, go. Okay, so this is interesting. I just segregated an issue without actually having the whole thing running. This is not firing up. It's showing 0 gigahash if I touch the heatsink, the aluminum heatsink on top of the USB stick. It's not even warm. If I look at the power at the wall, I'm only using 8.9 watts. This USB stick isn't firing up for some reason. So either I have a bad USB stick or there's something wrong with maybe the power coming to it. Some of these Bitcoin merch power supplies are a little bit weak, and they don't really handle the power that well. I've noticed from the Bitaxes that they don't push enough power out, and they're just not really well made, the power supply. So it could be a power supply issue, and it could be the USB stick itself. The fan, however, is working perfectly. It's really silent, just like it should be, and it's blowing a lot of air. So that was a perfect 1-for-1 swap, and it went really well. Now we got to figure out why this isn't powering though. We could switch one of these USBs into here, but because that fan's soldered in, it would be a little bit of a hassle to go back and unhook the whole feet, slide that thing back off, then remove the stick, remove the housing off of this one, slide it in its place, and then put the fan back on and fire it up. The easiest thing, let's try the power supply first. Let's swap this power supply. Let's see if we have something laying around that will work. This is using the same barrel connector as the Bitaxes. I wonder if it's the same exact power supply as a Bitaxe. Let's test that. Okay, so this is the RG Bitaxe, and we did a nice review video on that. Check that out if you are interested. But this thing is beautiful. It is, it's not the Gamma, it's the, I believe it's the Supra chip. So it does like 500, 600 gigahash. I haven't actually adjusted any settings, but it's kind of loud itself because of the plastic housing, the plexiglass that's right over top of the fan. Actually, if I cut this out, I think it would be way better for the quality. And I might do that one day, just Dremel out these little slots. But anyway, I digress. The power supply, it is a 5-volt power supply. This one, however, is a 5-volt 10 amp, and the stock one is a 5-volt 2 amp, I believe. So let's see if we can just swap the power supply out of this Bitaxe, plug it into this, and then we'll see if it starts hashing. So let's make that happen. Go. Okay, so yeah, this is the same exact power supply that comes on a lot of the Bitaxes. If you buy a Bitaxe from Bitcoin Merch, this is the exact same power supply. I misspoke. It's 5-volt 5 amp block style power supply, but it's the same exact barrel connector. I believe it's a 5.5, 2.5 as the Bitaxe here. So we're gonna plug this one in, and we're gonna see if it works or if it blows up. So it's the same voltage, so there shouldn't be an issue. So right away, it didn't blow up, so that's a plus. We didn't get an explosion. Let's cut the lights off of this thing. And then it takes a little while before it fires up. So let's see if it fires up. Let's see if it starts mining and actually engages that USB stick, or if we need to swap out the USB stick. So time warp, go. Wow, I am actually in shock. That seems to be working. The stick has fired up. Our little mini Doge guy is going back and forth mining. It's registering gigahash now, and instead of 8.9 watts at the wall, where we're looking at 16.7, I think it's still spooling up a little. It's at 205 gigahash. Let's see if it goes any higher. But yeah, I think this block died. I think this little power supply died. It was enough. It would power this on to 27 now, 17 watts. So it's still actually spooling up, but that's awesome. It's the power supply. This little block has died. We'll still need to plug it all in as one unit and see if it all fires back up to full hash rate. But these all seem to have been heated. They all felt warm. So it felt like these were all working, and it was only this one stick. It is starting to warm up to the touch now on the heatsink. 227 still, 17.5 watts. So let's actually let this run for a little while, make sure that it stays stable, that there's no issues. This power supply is way overkill for this. It is a 5-volt 10 amp. And it's, like I said, only running 17 watts for this guy. So we're probably going to get a replacement power supply. And then let's fire these up and let's just see what happens. Time warp, go. Hey, future altered with an altered future. So yeah, we were finishing this video and then our mics died and we didn't get the audio. So we're just going to recap while we play the video of what happened. Previously, we went ahead and we troubleshooted. We replaced the fan on the main unit. We went and plugged it in and it didn't fire up. No hash rate. So what did we figure out? After a lot of testing, we figured out it was just the PSU had died on the Mars lander. We replaced the power supply and then it started firing the main unit right back up. So that's where we're going to pick up. And then from there, what happened? So we plugged it all in, got it back hashing, and we realized that one of the sticks in the 4 hub wasn't firing up, or at least was not firing up optimally. We were missing quite a bit of hash rate. We started troubleshooting and we segregated the one stick, figured out that it was way hotter than the others. So we used our thermometer, our laser thermometer, and we got the temperature and we realized that, yeah, the fan itself was not spinning at full capacity, so it was overheating the actual USB stick. When we realized that, then we're like, okay, let's just see what happens if we super cool that. Will the hash rate go back up? And of course it did. So right there, we ran our thermometer and we started going on all 4 of them and we figured out which one exactly it was, and then that's how we figured out that the fan was cooked. When we replaced the fan, then we started getting an increased hash rate. So to replace the fan, it wasn't quite so easy as just replacing the fan. But luckily, I have had another RGB fan left over from a Raspberry Pi ice tower from where I did the ice tower swap. And if you want to see the ice tower swap on the Bitaxe, check out that video, of course, up above. So we got the fan off of that Raspberry Pi, but then we had to hardwire it into the harness. It was quite a project. We finally got that thing wired in, and wouldn't you know, now we are cooking. This whole thing is back to cooking. We're back up to around 1.3, 1.4 terahash for the whole thing. That's 5 USB sticks. So yeah, here is the RGB Bitaxe I'm showing you, and what we did was we took the power supply out of there. It uses the same power jack, and that's how we figured out the power supply was actually bad in the main unit. Fired it up. We are back to running. We're at full hash rate. So yeah, I think that about wraps it up. Make sure you tell us your thoughts. What do you think of the Mars lander, Bitaxe, any of these new solo miners? Are they worth the effort? Are they worth the price? Are they worth the effort? Should you invest in one of these? Personally, if you have expendable income and you love the technology, you want to be part of Bitcoin, you want to be part of the network, sure, join in. But I think that about wraps it up. If you're new to mining, you need some help, make sure to join the Misfit Mining Discord. Always plenty of seasoned vets in there willing to help you out. If you like the video, you know what to do. Smash that like button and subscribe for future content. Thanks for coming along and enjoy the ride. And enjoy the ride. And then I start beatboxing. Hey, let's test this temperature. Aw, yeah. Peace.